There's a typo in there somewhere as well.
Hey guys, always the worst day of the year. Everyone we bring in this building, we bring in because of how much we appreciate them and we like them. We get to select who we bring in this building, which is one of the perks of our jobs. One of the worst parts of our jobs is telling 38 guys today that they don't make the team. So we had the opportunity to do that together with every single one of them. We'll see what happens here in the next 24 hours. We got a lot of uncertainty. We got a lot of work here to do too as a staff with all the players that are available. Any upgrade, even incrementally, that helps the team we're looking for here. So we'll get right back up and get back to work.
Before we go to the cuts, I guess we didn't talk to you since the Dotson trade. Why make that move, and how long did it take to put that together?
Player that we did a lot of work with in the draft process. Really liked the player. Felt like we knew him really well, brought him into the building, had exposure to him. Felt like we had a vision through the coaching staff of how he could be utilized. There was an opportunity there to get the player, obviously give up a second-day draft compensation, which is important for all of us, but we felt like it was worthwhile based on what we knew, what we thought that we needed, and made the trade.
What did you guys see from James Bradbury to convince you to keep him?
James always has had really good football instincts. When you see him play safety every day here and see his ability to diagnose, his football instincts, I think for all of us, that's a transition. That's a different position than playing outside corner. He's got a skill set. It's a long season. We already know that he's had tremendous success in this league playing outside corner as well. And with goals that we have for this football team, having a veteran player like that on the roster that we know we can rely on when called upon, we felt like it was important.
Nick, can you just address JP as well?
Yeah.
What you saw from him?
Yeah, same. Versatility, football IQ. Same type of thing Howie's just talking about. And
Just how he handled the whole situation. It could have been a difficult one. Got demoted, new position.
yeah, he's a pro, and he's been a pro ever since he's come into this building. He's led by example. He's led with his play, and guys look up to him.
So Howie, do you expect him to be on the roster the entirety of the season?
Yeah, obviously, when you're talking about our 53-man roster at any position, things come up, opportunities arise for our football team, for other football teams. So I don't want to get into that with not only him but anyone because, that backs you in the corner. And we say this to our players: our word's all we got. So when we tell players something, when we tell other teams something, we're going to abide by that. And so, I'd hate to get up here and be, dramatic about anything about anyone on the roster because, through the course of the season, things come up and opportunities arise. But he's on the team because we think he can help our team.
How do you view the backup center situation, and is Landon Dickerson a consideration?
Well, I think the first part about it is, and we talked about this a little bit today, we're incomplete right now. We're at 53, but we really view it as a 70-man roster. We got to go through that here in the next 24 hours to get some players back. We don't know how that's going to go. We feel like we're prepared for whatever the scenarios are on that. So as we sit here, things look probably a little bit more incomplete than they will look in the next 24 hours. We let go of some guys who've played the position. You hope to get some guys back. You also have contingency plans in case you don't. Obviously, we have other guys on the roster who've done it without getting into any specifics because it's probably part of our game planning and part of our roster management. But there are other guys on the roster who've done it and done it at a high level.
In finding cuts on the board, what went into releasing Dylan McMahon?
These are hard decisions, and you're really trying to balance the opportunity that you have this year as a football team, and also trying to protect the future of the team and of the organization. And so, certainly not an easy one. Draft picks always are a little bit special place for you, as all these players. But when you pick guys off the board, and I think just for us, where we were looking at the offensive line as a whole and looking at the roster as a whole. Tough decision, but that's where we came up on it.
When that balance, Howie, this is the first year you had those two spots on IR that you can designate to return, how did that shift things strategy-wise, or did it?
Well, we had two guys that were injured, two guys that if they came back healthy at some point during the season, we think they can help us, but we got to get them right. You know, they're hurt, and so those were two guys that we would have had to put on the 53 in other years and then put them on IR tomorrow. So certainly felt like the rule in this situation helped us keep two other players that we may not have been able to keep.
Going back to the Dotson trade, you know, that was one of, I think, like 3 trades that's happened within the NFC East. Do you foresee this? What made you feel comfortable, especially when you have opponents, like basically you're trying to beat them every year?
Yeah, certainly don't think they're trying to help us by any stretch of the imagination. So I think that you're always kind of concerned trading within the division, and no, we're not going to get any freebies from anyone. Not that we do from anyone in the league. But I think just dealing with Adam Peters and knowing him from San Francisco and knowing that, you know, he's got a certain value for his players, and if he gets the value that he feels confident in his decision making, have a lot of respect for him and dealing with him. And you know, I think it's always harder when you do it in your division, but you know, you always look at these trades, you know, it's like fraternity being a GM in this league. There's only 31 others in the whole world that you share that with. And so, you know, you always want to make trades that are win-win, you know, probably a little less so for trades in the NFC East.
From a big picture perspective, if you think back January, February, you had a plan for the offseason. You're going into the season now with this group and who you add tomorrow. How do you think it is compared to what you wanted?
I'm not trying to ignore the question, but don't know that I've had a chance to really sit back and take kind of a global perspective of how the offseason has been, just because we've been working. I think you get a little chance of that in June and kind of have a vision of how it could look, and then you get to camp and you get the preseason games and you get some more information. So also feel like we continue to have work to do. You know, our work isn't done here today. We'll continue to try and improve the roster today, tomorrow. As we've talked about, up through the trade deadline where it really kind of gets harder through that. So definitely feel like we've improved in a lot of areas. Also feel like, you know, we've lost a couple of great players here too that you're trying to always compensate for. So I'll think about that here as we go forward and try to get a better perspective on it.
You guys had 11 guys. You kept 11 guys at defensive back between the safety and cornerback and everything. And I was just kind of wondering, obviously depth was an issue last year at that position. Like, how important was it to make sure you guys had the necessary depth there?
Big off-season priority for us. You know, I feel like I needed to take responsibility for not putting the coaches in a good enough spot in our defensive backfield last year, and didn't want to have it happen again. And so I'm excited about the guys that we have. I'm excited about the opportunities here, certainly the next 24 hours to continue to add to that group as well.
Nick,
this is a much younger team
than last year coming, you know, as an undrafted.
You're just backing off. You just let him go.
That's the kind of guy I am.
I know. It's interesting. He kept going. You stopped, and he won.
Sorry.
Winner.
Thanks. Nick, for you, Tristan McCollum, a guy that didn't make this team last year as an undrafted free agent. Big leap this year 2. What have you seen in his ability to progress from last year to this year that earned him a spot?
Yeah, Tristan. You know, Tristan obviously flashed in games and did some really good things in games that we all saw, right? But also he was consistent in practice and the things that he did in practice, and you know, he has great athletic ability that can help on special teams, and we know how he can affect the game on special teams as well. So really happy for him. Like as sad as we have to, you know, as sad as we are for the guys that don't make it, there are stories like, for whatever reason, that sits with you longer, like the ones that don't make it and the hard conversations you have. But a guy like Tristan, you know, you're really excited for. And that, you know, I'm not saying that equals out or anything like that, but I'm really excited for him because he went and earned it. He's tough, and his ability to make plays with his athletic ability.
Along those lines, is there anyone else in that vein that kind of stands out to you that you got to deliver some good news to?
Go ahead.
That question wasn't asked to me, so I mean.
Yeah,
like I'm
yeah,
Grim
but
Reaper today.
yeah, but again, you know, it's exciting for all the guys that made the team because this you know, Howie and his staff have done an unbelievable job of putting the roster together and giving us so much good competition. You know, to make this team is really exciting, and it's been, you know, as we continue to call these guys, because, you know, obviously we went all the way to the last minute. We're still calling some of the guys that now know they made the team. But you don't get to do that with every single guy. But, yeah, we will here later this afternoon.
Howie, it's a much younger team than last year. How much of a priority was getting younger, getting faster, younger guys stay healthy, all that part of the equation?
Yeah, I think I probably look at it more so because of how top heavy we are from a contract perspective. We have a lot of good players making well-deserved money that we have to have the bottom of our roster as much on rookie deals as possible. And we've been fortunate that even though that we've paid these guys, that we have had some picks. And at the same time, they got to prove it. You know, nobody's on scholarship here. So it's well-deserved that those guys have had the opportunity to make this team. And I think it is important as you build your roster to compete for championships that you have a growing young core that you can build with along with the guys that you're paying.
You have 28 defensive players versus 22 on offense. Is there any concern that you too lopsided?
Again, I think the telling part will be once we get to 70, Jeff. You know, again, we use that 70-man roster more so when we talk about numbers than we do necessarily 53. So I think in the end, it will look very consistent with how we've looked the past couple of years.
The two new coordinators, how is the process any different than years past, and how much weight does their voice carry?
Well, like to think that we're listening to everyone who has an opinion, who has an educated opinion about things, that has studied things, and has some expertise in the area. You know, at the end of the day, our jobs are different. You know, I think that's one of the things that we respect about each other is that, you know, I have a different job than coach. Our scouts have a different job than the assistant coaches. And that's understandable, you know, but at the end of the day, we're all trying to win. We're trying to win as much as we possibly can this year and then go back and do it again next year and the year after that. And so, yeah, they have voices. We had an opportunity to do that. I can't tell you that every single guy on the roster was unanimous. I think that's okay. And I understand that.
Coaches are selfish. So if you ask Jeremiah Washburn, he'd want to keep 8 guys at that position, and sometimes, you know, they're more selfish, and they want to keep their guys because they've worked so hard with it. So, and
I think it's easy to accuse front office guys of wanting to have their draft picks, you know, and have guys like that. And so, you know, I think because I've been doing this long enough, I try to really balance it and try to make sure that we're doing the right things to make sure that the coaches have everything they need to win as many games as possible, and that we're also developing players so that we don't go into next year with 25 free agents and having to replace a ton of guys. But it's tricky.
It's the first year that you guys have been together and not kept an undrafted rookie. Conversely, there are more guys on futures deals than past years. Is that part of a strategy for this offseason?
I was thinking that maybe we should do like a deli takeout thing, Bob, where people get numbers, you know, because it's really become a competition that maybe coach likes, but I feel bad. I actually do. I actually do feel bad when people get shut down. Yeah, we approached, as we talked about, we approached the futures a little bit differently this year, based on the quality and the quantity in the draft that we thought. We were a little bit more aggressive in the futures market. And we knew that the undrafted market would be different just for this year. That being said, we had a bunch of undrafted guys that did well, you know, just as we looked at the competition for the 53 on the first glance, you know, didn't make it, but some guys we'd be interested in bringing back.
How do you feel a chance to look at the rookie class throughout training camp and the preseason? I guess what's your evaluation of the group?
We haven't played a real game, you know, and so I think that it would be premature to have any definitive evaluations about how they're going to play in the NFL. You know, going to Brazil it will be a big test for all of us, and excited to see those guys. But I think as advertised, which is really the best compliment you can give a group of guys coming out of training camp. all of them incredible students of the game, want to learn, competitive guys, great character. Really, really excited about this group of rookies, and feel like they have a chance to make their own imprint on this team and have an impact on this team, not only this year, but going forward.
Guy that you did see some of was last year, but you're expecting a lot of, I assume, is Nolan Smith. How do you think he's ready? How much ready is he to step up and fill a role as a third or fourth rusher?
Yeah, I think Nolan's got unique get-off, speed, and motor. And I think when you look at the guys that have that, they can be disruptive, they can be productive. I think for us, like the guy is going to give you everything he's got, and he's got tools in his body to do it. He's still a developing player. He's still kind of learning. We do things differently than they do things in college. Obviously, tremendously successful in college. And he's still growing, and he's still developing. And he's got all the tools in his body, and he's got the right intangibles to be a good player.
In terms of Thomas Booker this year making the roster, is he a better fit within what Fangio does? Wouldn't in the conversation of them being a part of the line?
This is a guy that if you were here in the off season, he lived in the facility. Tremendous work ethic. Obviously, incredibly smart guy, a Stanford guy. He's got all the tools in his body. And just an incredible tribute to him and how hard he worked. And when you watch the tape and you see his get off and his ability to play with leverage, to play with power, to affect the quarterback, to be disruptive around the quarterback in the backfield. To us, it was clear the guy deserved to be on the team. Probably should have said this to him before I said it to you guys, but just really proud of him. It's a great tribute to our development program. Those guys, the program that we have, led by Connor, does a tremendous job of developing guys and trying to work on their weaknesses while they're on the practice squad and in the spring and in the summer, and then obviously with our coaches, they did a tremendous job of putting in position, and you see a guy with talent, with intangibles, with work ethic, who looked really good, and excited to see what he can do during the regular season.
It's just a real good example, too, of like the work that he got against a good offensive line last year while he was here. Like the improving, Thomas on our practice squad last year really improved because of the quality of player he was going against the entire year. And he made it, and no doubt has he made himself a really good player, and to a point where he's on this roster. But he's that iron sharpening iron was really special, and to see him grow because he's going against Landon, he was going against Cam, he was going against Jason Kelsey. So a credit to our roster as a whole, Howie.
If I could ask you, what did Johnny Wilson show you this summer, being a sixth-round guy, and what kind of role do you see him at this year?
We wish he was a little bit bigger. No, he's got great size, and he
just wanted to use the Skilo line. In his mind, he's thinking that Skilo song. Yeah, it is a good song.
He again, you're looking to fill different roles within your wide receiver room, and he's got the ability to do some things that are really unique. His size is unique, his strength is unique, his toughness is unique. Without getting too much into how we'll use him, he just fit something that we need in that room, and he really embraced it, and we're looking forward to the things that he can do this year.
Howie,
I just one last thing, because that was the last one, right, Bob?
I'll get you off the record.
A couple of guys that were on staff here worked with Joe De Los Andres at the Ravens, and as I get to myself, I was one of them. I worked with him in two places, at Kansas City and also with the Chargers. Kevin Patullo worked with him in Kansas City, and also the Bills, and Coach Jeremiah Washburn's close with him as well. And as our hearts are and our prayers go out to his three daughters and his grandkids. And as I get to read a little bit about Joe more, obviously knowing him and reading some of the articles that are coming out on him, everybody says the same thing. He really made you feel special. That's the thing that keeps coming up on Joe D. He'd make you feel special about yourself. He'd make your family feel special about them. And it is so as advertised. Joe D was a great great man. My wife and I were just talking about it the other day. My oldest son, Jacob, was born. And we'd come and they'd bring him, and Brett would bring him into the office, and Joe D would be on the floor crawling around with him, and Joe just making my wife feel good, making Jacob feel good at age 1, and he just had this unbelievable ability. He always said he was trying to get his grandchildren chime in right there with Jacob when he was in the office. So, man, he was a special coach. He was a special person, and our prayers here with the Eagles go out to Joe D's family and the Ravens.